Good morning. We were very honored by Brandon when he called us a couple weeks ago and told us he was preaching on Daniel chapter 9 and the contending for God's promises and asked us to share a little bit of our story. But before I share, I want to acknowledge how much this service reminds me of what we're learning in Daniel. That in the beginning of the book, there's major miracles with the fiery furnace and the lion's den. And this morning, there were some major miracles of 80% healings in the room. And we're in the midst of that, and we get to celebrate that. And yet, we're also in the midst of some of you having extremely long waits. Like we zoomed forward to Daniel chapter 9 and heard about him waiting 70 years for this promise to be fulfilled. So even in this room, I just want to acknowledge that there's some of both, just as there's some of both in Daniel, his story and in Brandon's message. But our story began 7 years ago. My husband Matt and I have been married 11 years, and about 3 years into our marriage, we started praying about what it would look like to start a family and what God's plans and intentionality was for us. And as we prayed together and prayed individually, the Lord laid on both of our hearts that He was going to build our family through adoption. That was His plan A for both of us. And so we started praying deeper into what that would look like, and God called us to international adoption, and specifically from the country of Haiti. We watched then as the aftermath of the earthquake on January 12th, 2010 happened, shortly after the Lord had called us there. And there was just devastation in the country and devastation in our hearts as we watched that from a distance. And so God ended up leading us to the country of Haiti a few months after the earthquake for the very first time. And we left our hearts there after our first trip. And so we just started praying into leading us to the right orphanage, leading us to pick out the right kids. As we were pursuing that, Matt was living in Haiti that summer and delivering food to several different orphanages while he also was giving out microfinance loans to small businesses. And so he went to one orphanage in particular where there was a teeny little boy who looked maybe 2 years old. We found out later he was 4. But every time Matt would arrive, he would just put his arms up and want to be picked up every time. And this little boy picked Matt. And so I just remember that call, that Skype call. I was here and he was there, and he said, "I met our son today." And he just told me about this little boy and sent me some pictures of him. And it was this sweet moment. And so we jumped into paperwork, and we do that. How many of you, when you hear a calling from God and you feel there's confirmation in your prayers, you are all in? We just ran forward knowing the sooner we got our paperwork done and the sooner we moved forward, the sooner God would bring that miracle to fruition. And so we did our paperwork as quickly as possible, only to find out that orphanage in Haiti was not licensed to do adoptions. And so we were processing through that. We were looking for other orphanages to move our kids that would be able to process the paperwork. In doing so, He also changed our plans because we had plans to adopt 2 boys, and God totally turned that on its head and said, "You have a daughter instead of a second son." And God really changed my life as I was talking with a little girl on one of my trips who was 7 years old at the time, and she was telling me that she just wanted a family who would love her. That was her biggest desire in life. And that sentence has changed the trajectory of my life completely. So we had to change our paperwork, call our social worker. They have to know boys versus girls and what age range you're willing. We had to change everything. But it was so worth it because we knew without a shadow of a doubt that God had placed these 2 special kids on our lives, and they were supposed to be part of our family. As we processed through what it would look like to do the adoption in Haiti, we also found out, unfortunately, that orphanage wasn't licensed to do adoptions because they were actually a human trafficking ring. And so we had to contend with the Haitian government. We ended up contending with the U.S. government. CNN was about to run a story. Finally, the Haitian president, who had been notified and had previously done nothing, finally decided he didn't want the bad press. And so he was willing to sound the alarm and shut down this orphanage, but not without calling the director of social services in Haiti saying, "Hey, I'm going to shut this orphanage down tomorrow. There's 85 kids there. I can shut it down, but I need somewhere for them all to go tomorrow." Unfortunately, that person was corrupt, and they notified the orphanage. And so when the police came the next day, only half the kids were there and none of the staff. So no one was arrested. Our kids were missing. We flew to Haiti with a whole group of people from around the U.S. the very next day, and there were 45 kids missing. And my kids weren't there. And I just know in my heart that this is my family and there's something to contend for in that moment. And it was really hard. But God was so working. He was so working, just like he's working in Daniel's life, just like he's working in your life, to say, you didn't hear me wrong. There's people in this room that think you've heard God wrong, and you haven't. And so as we continued to fight and contend in prayer, and as Matt traveled to Haiti multiple times, we watched as delay after delay and discouragement after discouragement threatened to end our hopes of adoption. And it took 3 months to come into contact with our daughter again. It took another 5 months after that to come into contact with our son. We contended with the Haitian government to let us bring them home on an emergency visa because of the trafficking case. They took 2 years to say no. And when they said no, they didn't really say no with any clear direction. We waited another couple months for them to finally come back and say, oh, well, we don't want to do humanitarian parole, but if you start over again, every ounce of your paperwork and find an agency and jump through all these hoops, then we can let you do the adoption in Haiti. And so we did all of that. We jumped through all of the hoops. We were just excited to be moving forward. And then we waited another 2.5 years before they finally gave that final seal of approval, and our kids had passports and our kids had visas, and they finally were able to come home. And I'm thankful to be sharing with you on this side of the story, because there were some really hard moments in the waiting, and I can see God moving, but I also had significant discouragement in my heart. And on this side, on the other side, I can share with you, there's so much of his grace and his mercy and his transformation that I've seen. Our kids finally came home on July 26th of this summer. They're actually in the second row. And that miracle has really transformed my life and Matt's life, and I'll let him share a little bit about that.
Good morning, everybody. So a lot of people have asked, or did ask through the years while we were waiting, 6.5 years. It's a long time for us in our world of instant gratification. Obviously, it pales in comparison to what Daniel did, but for me, it was a super long time and super painful, and a lot of people could resonate with that, and they would ask us, how do you do that? How are you speaking? How are you living? How are you moving forward? And not, going there and killing somebody or putting them on a boat and making your way up here. And, to be perfectly honest, I thought all those things. It's kind of all on the table at some point. And so the first, at least 2 years were super, super hard. It was a lot of doubting God and did I mishear your call? There was a lot of that. And probably, I think, 2-ish year mark, I started turning God, there has to be something here, that you have to be doing something. And one of the verses that I clung to was Romans 8:28, where God works together all things for the good of those who love him and are called for his purposes. And so I said, Lord, I'm pretty clear this is the purpose you called me on, and I love you. And so there's got to be something good here. And I'm not seeing it right now, so you need to show me. Show me the good of what is going on. And so he began to do that. And he has continued to do that over the last remaining years. And as I look back now, I can see how it benefited our children and how it benefited us. I can see that where they are today and where they were 4 years ago is very different. And I think that their extended time in Haiti, while painful in a lot of ways and not perfect, it also ingrained in them some more of their identity. And they were able, once they were safe, they were able to build some relationships with extended family and people who they can identify with later on in life that I think will serve them well and that we want to cultivate. And for us, it sharpened us significantly. We had, God is a big sanctifier, as you know. And so times of trial, if we're willing, will refine us and sharpen us. And God revealed to me at some point along the way that I was carrying an orphan spirit with me and that I didn't believe that he would meet my needs or that my prayers would be answered or that he was a faithful father in all things. And so he walked me through a process of healing that and trusting him again, and highlighted verses for me throughout Scripture of our adoption in him, that we are co-heirs with Christ, and his inheritance that he set aside for Christ, he also has the full measure for us. And so that kind of thing changed my heart, changed my life, changed our marriage, and gave me his father heart. And it changed, not only changed our identity, changed our purpose as well. And so we are all in. We are kingdom focused, and Tiffany has started a ministry uniting churches and agencies and nonprofits to protect kids and give them a family that would love them and strengthen families around that. And I've centered my life on business's mission. I believe that people can be empowered and families can stay together if they're given means to work and earn and provide. And so I have a business that brings products from around the world where people are working with ministries, jobs are created, they're providing for their families, and then we're creating a marketplace here in the United States. So we are fully in line. But our biggest purpose right now is loving our sweet children. So the battle's not over. They come from a hard place. And so I'm not chasing them around in the slums of Haiti trying to find them anymore. I'm searching and seeking their hearts these days. And we're going to grow, and God's going to be victorious. So thank you for this time.